At Thanksgiving dinner, my sister suddenly rose from her seat and declared, "We took a vote, and you're officially not part of this family anymore." The room erupted in applause. I gave a quiet, amused exhale and replied, "In that case, you won't be needing this." I set a folder in the middle of the table. The second she flipped it open, she shrieked, "Before we get to the turkey," Natalie announced, standing with that smug, practiced smile she always wore when she wanted to feel important, "there's something we need to address." The whole table fell silent. Forks stalled in the air. My stomach tightened. I knew that voice. It was the same one she used when she got me punished at 14 for a party I never even attended. "We held a family vote," she went on, sweeping her gaze around the table like some pageant contestant waiting for her crown. "And the result is, you're no longer considered family." There was a beat, and then an explosion of cheers. Cheers! My cousin Laura clapped like she was front row at a live show. Uncle Mitch lifted his wine glass in a toast. Even my mother, my own mother, chuckled and said, "Well, someone had to put it out there." I stayed completely still, staring down at my plate. The stuffing was cold, but my blood felt like it was boiling. My father didn't even acknowledge me, just took a sip of his beer and muttered, "Honestly, this is probably for the best." "Unbelievable," I murmured, easing my chair back. "You people actually planned this out." Natalie's grin widened. "You've been toxic for years. We're finally done pretending." "And you're not family," my mom added casually, reaching for the cranberry sauce as if she were commenting on the weather. The vote was unanimous. I glanced around the table. Not a single person spoke up. Not one. "Perfect," I whispered. Then I reached into my bag. "I had a feeling something like this might go down," I said, pulling out a heavy folder and setting it right in the middle of the table. The dull thud it made sliced right through the laughter. Natalie blinked. What is that?" I leaned back, crossed my arms, and gave her a slow grin. "Why don't you open it and see?" She grabbed it like she was about to unwrap a present and tore it open, that usual smug smirk already pulling at her mouth, the expression she wore whenever she thought she'd already won. But the second she flipped the first page, the smile vanished. Her face drained of color. She flipped to the next page, then another, her eyes widening with every line. And then she screamed. Not a little startled. Yelp. A full-on horror movie. Blood-freezing shriek. Her chair toppled backward as she shot to her feet and slammed the folder shut like it was radioactive. "You're sick!" she shouted at me. "You're an absolute psycho!" Gasps rippled around the table. Joel snatched the folder from her shaking hands, opened it, and froze. His jaw practically hit his plate. He slowly lifted his eyes to me. "Is this real?" I nodded once. "All of it," I said calmly. "Every document, every message, every receipt." A stillness fell over the room, so thick you could hear a fork clatter in the kitchen sink. My mother opened her mouth like she wanted to speak, but no sound came out. Just a silent gulp. "You were all so sure I'd never push back," I said, rising from my chair. "So sure I'd stay the quiet one, the convenient one, the one you could drain dry without consequences." I leaned forward, meeting Natalie's panicked stare. "But your little performance?" I said softly. "It ends tonight. You want to know what was in that folder? I'll get there, but first, you need to understand how we reached this point. Because Natalie didn't just wake up this morning and decide I didn't belong. That verdict wasn't sudden. It was built piece by piece, jab by jab. Betrayal by betrayal, I was never the favorite, not even remotely. Natalie was their shining trophy. Straight A smile, queen of charm, able to lie without blinking and somehow make people applaud for it. Me? I was quiet, independent, kept to myself. They despised that. They mistook silence for weakness. I moved out at 19, paid my own tuition, worked double shifts, never asked for a penny. Meanwhile, Natalie failed out of 2 majors, backpacked across Europe to find herself, then waltzed home and married Joel, who basically has the personality of a resume wearing a sports coat. I paid for half their wedding. My parents claimed they couldn't contribute, yet magically afforded a 2-week cruise right after. I never complained I didn't say a word, even when they joked that I was the family banker. I still kept helping, covered Dad's dental bills, sent money when Mom said the heating bill was overdue, even paid part of Cousin Laura's tuition when her scholarship got delayed. They'd always say thanks with that tone, the one that meant, of course you helped. What else do you even have going on? And maybe that was the root of it. I'm single. No husband, no kids, just my job and my dog. To them, that meant my time and money were theirs to claim. Natalie especially treated me like her personal emergency fund. Joel gets laid off. Call me. Car breaks down. Come on, you make good money. What's a couple thousand? Kid needs therapy the insurance won't cover. Ring me up first, and I always helped. Always, because I told myself it's family. But that generosity slowly warped into expectation, then entitlement, then outright dependency. It started with harmless jokes at dinners. Oh look, she brought the fancy wine. Must be nice. Of course you're early, you don't have kids slowing you down. I wish I could hide at work every night instead of dealing with my husband. Then it got crueler. You're so cold. No wonder you're still by yourself. You don't know real pressure. You don't deal with anything, they'd tell me. You don't even have an actual life. You're just jealous no one relies on you. Except they did rely on me, constantly, quietly, and almost always for money. And then came the text, Natalie. Hey, can you co-sign a small business loan? Joel and I want to open a wellness cafe. Me. No, Natalie. Wow, seriously? And that was the end of the conversation. 3 months have passed since that message. Since then, a complete frost. My mom stopped calling altogether. My dad replied to texts with single words. No one told me about the last family dinner. Natalie blocked me on every platform after posting a story about removing toxic people. But I didn't sit around feeling sorry for myself. Instead, I got organized. Receipts. Actual receipts. I keep everything. Transfers, emails, screenshots, timestamps. I'm not naive. And when I totaled it all, I realized that in the past 5 years alone, I had sent out over $78,000 to various family members. $78,000. $8,000 for Joel's rehab. $2,300 for Natalie's emergency dental work, which ended up being elective veneers. $1,500 for Dad's back procedure. $12,000 to wipe out Mom's credit card mess. $6,000 to help Laura move into college. $4,500 for a family emergency that turned out to be a vacation in Cabo. And not once, not one single time, did any of them offer repayment. Not even a plan. Not even a promise. They just kept taking. And the moment I finally said no, I magically became the villain. So I built the folder inside. Every bank transfer, every "can you help" text, every guilt trip, screenshots of Natalie calling me manipulative because I refused the loan, a clear timeline of every major payment I made. And as the grand finale, copies of their social media posts where they badmouthed me. I even had screenshots from a private comment thread where Natalie called me a spineless ATM with a pulse. That, all of that, is what she saw. That's what made her scream. Because she wasn't just caught. She was dismantled with dates, numbers, and her own words. And the rest of the family finally saw what they'd done. My mother looked like she might pass out. Joel? He got stuck on one particular line. $4,200. Payment for Natalie's credit card bill used at a hotel in Santa Monica with someone named Alyssa. He stared at it and whispered, What is this? I didn't reply. I didn't need to. But for the first time in my life, I didn't justify, explain, or defend anything. I simply let the truth sit there. You kept all this? My mom finally asked, her voice trembling. Every bit? I looked at her, completely calm. You never remembered, I said. So someone had to. Natalie still hadn't sat down. Her face was ghost white, her fists squeezed tight. Her gaze flicked from Joel to me, to the folder and back again. "This is an invasion," she hissed. "You didn't have the right to... I rose slowly and said, "You stood here in front of everyone and announced I was no longer part of this family, and you all applauded, so don't act shocked that I came prepared." Joel flipped another page in the folder, his voice tightening as he asked, "Why is there a Santa Monica hotel charge on my card? Who's Alyssa?" And Natalie snapped toward him, frozen, her silence louder than any denial. My mom tried to intervene with a shaky, "Let's just calm down." And I replied, "Great, then let's calmly discuss the time you called me a parasite while depositing the money I sent you." She stammered that it wasn't fair, because they were stressed, and I shot back, "You were stressed, and I rescued you every single time, until the one time I didn't, and suddenly I was the villain." My dad, quiet until then, muttered that I was exaggerating, so I turned to him and said, low and steady, "You watched them do this to me for years and stayed silent, because letting it happen was easier than stopping it." And he didn't even try to deny it. Natalie slammed her hand down and snarled that I was just bitter no one needs me. And I answered,
"Who's Alyssa?" And Natalie snapped toward him, frozen, her silence louder than any denial. My mom tried to intervene with a shaky, "Let's just calm down," and I replied, "Great, then let's calmly discuss the time you called me a parasite, while depositing the money I sent you." She stammered that it wasn't fair because they were stressed, and I shot back, "You were stressed, and I rescued you every single time, until the one time I didn't, and suddenly I was the villain." My dad, quiet until then, muttered that I was exaggerating. So I turned to him and said low and steady, "You watched them do this to me for years, and stayed silent because letting it happen was easier than stopping it, and he didn't even try to deny it." Natalie slammed her hand down and snarled that I was just bitter no one needs me, and I answered, "Wrong, I'm not bitter, I'm finished." She laughed sharply and called me pathetic for printing screenshots like a control freak. And I told her, "All you're proving is you only cared about me when my money benefited you." She fired back that I chose to help and no one forced me. And I stepped forward and said, "Except you all expected it every single time. Until helping wasn't kindness anymore. It was obligation. And when I finally stopped, you voted me out." My voice cracked. Not from hurt but fury, as I added, "You never wanted a brother, you wanted a walking debit card." Joel stood up, staring at the folder, and asked Natalie if everything inside it was true. For the first time she had nothing, no excuses, no lies, just silence. He whispered, "You lied about the hotel, about the money, about him." And she burst out claiming she had to, because I was supposedly turning everyone against her, and I said, "I didn't need to. You managed that entirely on your own." The room fell silent again, until my mom leaned forward and tried one last soft plea, saying, "Families fight, and we should move past this." And I cut her off. "You're not listening. I'm not looking for peace or forgiveness. I'm telling you it's over." Natalie scoffed and said to stop pretending this was some dramatic turning point, but I just stared back, knowing it was exactly that. She scoffed, "You've said that before," and I met her stare without flinching. "Not like this," I said, pulling another envelope from my coat. My dad sighed, already drained, and asked, "What now?" I slid it across the table. Joel grabbed it before it hit the floor, opened it, and his face drained as he whispered, What is this?" I answered for him. "Revocation forms, power of attorney for mom, cancelled. Medical proxy, cancelled. Emergency contact, removed. I've already filed everything. I'm legally and emotionally done carrying any of you." My mother gasped, tears already forming, and choked out, "You're really going to cut us off? Completely?" "Completely," I said. "Starting now." She accused me of being selfish, insisting they'd made mistakes but were still my family. And I turned to her, my voice quiet and final. "No, you're not." I grabbed my coat, gave all of them one last look, and walked out, left them sitting there at Thanksgiving, surrounded by untouched food, shattered illusions, and all the truths they'd spent years pretending not to see. I didn't glance back, not because it didn't hurt, of course it did, but because closing that door felt like releasing a weight I'd carried my entire life. I drove until instinct pulled me toward the lake I visited as a kid, the one where Dad used to take me fishing. I sat in my car staring at the glassy water, letting the silence wash over me. No demands, no guilt, no one waiting for money or favors, just quiet. The next day, nothing. The day after, still nothing. But on day 3, the calls started. Mom first, 2 missed calls and a voicemail begging, "You can't mean this." We were angry, but we're still your family. I ignored it. Then Natalie, "You have no idea what you've done. Joel's filing for divorce. Are you happy? Something is seriously wrong with you." Then Dad, "You crossed a line. We all said things we didn't mean, but what you did was nuclear. Your mother is falling apart. Fix this." I didn't answer any of them, and strangely the guilt I expected never came. I thought I'd lie awake at night, wondering if I'd gone too far, but instead I slept deeper than I had in years. No more analyzing every word I sent, no more bracing for sudden requests, no more midnight pleas for quick help, disguised as crisis. For the first time in a decade, I could hear my own thoughts. I started waking up early, running again, making my coffee slowly, feeling the quiet settle into places chaos used to live. I finally started booking all the appointments I had pushed off for years: dentist, doctor, even a therapist. Not because I was falling apart, but because for the first time in my life, I had the space to take care of myself.
Updated every emergency contact, removed my parents, changed every password, froze the old shared accounts, and blocked Natalie everywhere. It wasn't revenge. It was liberation. A week after Thanksgiving, my cousin Laura, yes, the same one who cheered when they voted me out, texted to say she never knew I covered her tuition and was sorry for following the mob, admitting I was the only one who ever actually showed up. I didn't reply, but I read it twice. Then Joel messaged out of nowhere. He'd filed for divorce, everything in the folder checked out, and he'd realized she'd lied to him, as much as she lied to me. "You did the right thing," he wrote. "I wish I'd left sooner." And that hit deeper than I expected. A few days later, I did something I hadn't done in years. I applied for a job in another city, not because I was fleeing, but because I was unchained at last. No more guilt-soaked reminders to stay close, or questions about who would take care of them if I left. I reconnected with friends I'd drifted from because family drama had swallowed my life, and unbelievably, some of them had seen my Reddit post and reached out with real support. No ulterior motives, no begging, just, "We're proud of you." Someone asked if I regretted cutting them off, and I realized the only regret I had was waiting so long. I thought that would be the end of it, but with people like them, nothing ever ends neatly, especially once they start feeling the consequences of your absence. The first few weeks after Thanksgiving were beautifully quiet. No calls, no demands, no guilt, until Christmas rolled in. On December 22nd, my mom sent a single photo. Their living room, decorated for the holidays, stockings hung, a half-finished tree, and a big empty space where the gifts usually piled up, with the caption, "It doesn't feel right without you." Ellie keeps asking where her uncle is. I stared at it, recognizing the familiar manipulation. No accountability, just a quiet accusation wrapped in sentimentality. I ignored it. The next day, Natalie called. I let it ring, then she texted, "I know I messed up, but you don't need to punish everyone. Just come for Ellie, she misses you." Followed by, "Also, Mom and Dad are behind on the mortgage. The bank called. I thought you'd want to know." There it was, the ask. Always disguised, always coated in guilt. I blocked her. On Christmas Eve, my dad texted, "You've made your point. Enough's enough, we need help. We're still your blood." That night, I sat by my fireplace with a glass of wine in my small, quiet apartment, with no tree and no chaos. And for the first time, I was grateful for the silence they always claimed would ruin me. But it didn't stop there. In January, a strange number called. Out of habit, I answered. A man asked if I was Daniel, then said he was calling on my father's behalf regarding the family trust, that my dad claimed I was still the executor. I told him bluntly. I'd removed myself months ago, and everything was legally finalized. He hesitated, then admitted my dad asked him to reach out because they were in a bind. Of course they were. The gravy train had stopped. I hung up, but the breaking point came in February. A handwritten letter arrived with my mother's handwriting on the envelope. 3 pages, the first full of regret. They acted out of anger. They didn't realize how much they relied on me. The second full of guilt. My father's health failing, Natalie alone, Ellie struggling. The third, the real motive. They were selling the house but underwater. They just needed one last bit of help, and then they would never ask again. Do it for your father. Do it for the family. I let myself feel every engineered emotion they were reaching for, every tug on the strings they used to pull so easily. Then I folded the letter and dropped it into the trash. They weren't seeking reconciliation. They were seeking access. They didn't want me back. They wanted the version of me who never said no, who paid silently and suffered quietly. That version of me is gone. I'm not their scapegoat, not their piggy bank, not the glue holding their broken walls together. I walked away, and the most terrifying thing for them is that I'm thriving without them. I got the new job, moved to a bigger apartment in another city, started volunteering simply because I wanted to, built a life where my phone isn't a weapon pointed at me. I don't regret helping them. I regret how long it took me to stop. Real peace isn't being surrounded by people who call themselves family. It's being free from those who only use the word when they want something. Months later, I never expected my post to reach anyone, but I saw every comment, every message telling me I wasn't crazy or cruel, that I was brave for stepping away, and it meant more than I knew.